I was not my daughter's favourite until she learned a shocking truth. I do not think I can ever get over my wife's disappearance without a trace. I've not heard from her for 27 years, and I think about how she and the child are doing. Now I have to survive as a janitor at a company with an arrogant boss, sweet parents, and a friend I do not know if I can trust. I'm Alvin, and I have the worst life possible because nothing has been going well in my life for the longest time, I can say. I once had a life full of love and joy, and it changed within the blink of an eye. I married a very beautiful woman for about 3 years. We had big dreams, and we'd planned a future together. In the 3rd year of our marriage, she got pregnant, and we were both filled with complete joy. We thought that our lives as parents were finally about to start, but to my surprise, my wife left me when she was 7 months pregnant. I woke up, and she was not in the bed. I thought she was somewhere in the house, so I went around looking and calling for her, but nothing. I began to feel worried. I later found a letter by the bedside table that stated that she had left and was not coming back. She told me not to worry about her, as she would be okay, and that was the day that everything changed for me. My performance at work was affected, and I lost my job, and that was just the beginning of my torture. Months went by as I tried to find a job but had no success. I slowly ran out of money, so I had to mortgage the house and rent a room instead. I also sold a lot of furniture from the house to sustain myself. My luck was running out, and so was my money. I had no choice but to be a street vendor to try and survive. As I was selling, I was also looking for a job, and I got a job as a janitor, but it didn't last. So I moved from job to job as no one was satisfied with my work. A lot was going through my head, and I couldn't work in peace. My family asked me to go back home, but I wanted to stay in town as I hoped that my wife would show up someday. I prayed every night for her to come back, but I was left all alone. Today marks exactly 27 years since she left, and it triggered so many emotions in me. I'm starting to get used to it as I've been working here for almost a year without any breakdown, although my boss doesn't appreciate me. I know that I'm doing my best to get myself back, even though I will not be able to change completely. My life is at a complete standstill, and I don't want to go on like this anymore as I'm only killing myself slowly. My boss resembles my wife a lot. I cannot help staring at her as I see my wife in her. Sometimes I wonder who her parents are. Even though she's not the nicest person, I feel at home around her. That's probably the reason why my work here is better and I'm improving emotionally. I've never actually had a conversation with her, even though I collect my monthly payment from her physically, as I'm the only one who gets paid by check. I can't afford to get my money through the bank because it's just peanuts, and with the bank charges, I'll not be able to pay rent or buy food. I don't really have so many monthly expenses, but I do not have the money to pay all my expenses at once. Everyone is excited about the boss's birthday, which is a month away. I don't get why they're all happy to eat cake and blow up balloons like little children. I'll still need to get her a present as she's my boss, but what will I get her? Update 1. It's been a month and a half since my last update, and this company isn't exactly what I would call home. 2 weeks ago was my boss's birthday. I couldn't understand why my co-workers were excited about her birthday, but it turned out that on her birthday, everyone only comes to work to celebrate her birthday and not work. A few days before her birthday, everyone was so busy preparing for it. I felt like I didn't belong, as I was not assigned a task like everyone else. I didn't really mind though. I sat outside the office with a cup of coffee as everyone walked around and made phone calls. She then approached me and asked why I wasn't working. I looked at her and said that I was getting back to work as soon as I finished my cup of coffee. She demanded that I get back to work immediately, and I nodded as I stood. On her birthday, everyone brought her a present, and she was so happy. Her parents also showed up to surprise her for her birthday. It was beautiful. I didn't have enough money to buy her a present, so I decided to look into my wife's jewelry box and found an old pendant. I wrapped it and put it in my pocket to give to her. After everyone handed her their presents, I walked after them and pulled out what little I had for her. I wished her a happy birthday as I handed it to her. Her face changed immediately, and she asked what I thought I was doing. I explained to her that I was only giving her a gift like everyone else did. She laughed her lungs out as she unwrapped it. She saw the pendant, and she was quiet for a moment before asking where I got it from. I explained, and she accused me of stealing it. I was so disappointed, and I wished I had not given it to her. She demanded that I leave the office party and get back to work, as I was not invited to it. I went back to the storage room to get the cleaning detergents and continued working. As I cleaned, everyone continuously threw food on the floor. I politely asked a co-worker of mine to stop, and she made a big deal out of it, which brought us to Sofia's attention. She walked towards us and asked what the problem was. My co-worker claimed that I was bullying her by forcing her to do my job for me. Sophia looked at me with disgust and said, "Listen here, you good-for-nothing janitor. Cleaning is your job, and if we want to litter, we can do that, and you cannot stop us. You only have one job, and that is to clean. Talking about cleaning, clean this up," she said to me as she dropped a bottle of champagne to the floor and it broke into little pieces. I quietly cleaned it up and left the office. I went to vent all alone in the storage room. I cannot believe that even her parents let her treat someone like that. That clearly showed how much of a spoilt brat she is. Every time I see her, I think of how I would have taught my son or daughter to be the most humble person. I need this money so much that I have to put up with her ill treatment. A few minutes after I left the party, Theodor brought me a piece of cake and a can of cool drink. He told me not to mind the boss. I wonder how I'm not supposed to mind her when she's my boss. I do not really have a choice in this case but to put up with her. He assured me that everything would be okay as time went on, and I hope to believe him. But I know for sure that she can never change the way she treats people around her. She believes that people from the lower classes are animals, and no one can change that kind of mentality as it was instilled in her by her parents and the environment she grew up in. Her parents are equally responsible for the corrupt daughter they have. Even though I want to stand up against her, who am I to do so? I'm just a janitor anyway, and I can never win against her. But I don't really have anything to lose. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update. After my boss's ill treatment continued, I decided to report her to HR. I could no longer work around her as she made me uncomfortable. We went to a hearing a few days after my report. I thought I was finally going to get justice and get her to stop treating me like a dog. In the hearing, she denied ever treating me differently, and because she's been working at the company way longer than I have and there's been no case of the same sort ever recorded against her, they found it hard to believe me. Investigations were carried out and different people from the company were questioned, and they all stood by her side. I was all alone and no one wanted to stand by me. I was not only sad, I was ashamed, as I looked like a big fat liar in front of HR. I didn't know what to do. For a second, I thought that maybe if I resigned, I would be at peace. Then I remembered how much I needed the money, and I do not know when else I will be able to get a job if I decide to resign. I went back to work, as per the command from HR's office. A week later, Sophia called me and told me never to challenge her again. I felt threatened, and I was indeed threatened to stay quiet about the unhealthy work environment I live in. And because I decided to speak up, she decided to lower my pay rate. I complained and told her that she couldn't do that. She looked at my distressed face and said, "I can do anything because I'm the boss. What can you do? Will you run to HR's office again? Someone needs to teach you how things work around here. Whether I decrease or increase your pay, it will still be the same. Your monthly payment is not even enough for my manicure or to do my hair. Why do you even bother coming into work?" I wish she were my daughter so I could teach her manners the hard way because she's so poisonous. I don't get why she acts this way with me and no one else. Everyone claims she's the best boss, but on my side she's the worst boss to ever exist. My salary is already barely enough to pay expenses, and she reduced it because I decided to speak up. What will I do to survive? My wife was my lucky charm, and now everything and everyone is against me. What have I done to the universe to deserve this kind of treatment? I have to get back to work. I will update you soon on how I'm coping with my work environment. Update 3. It's been 3 weeks since my last update. I've been seriously ill, or we can call it stressed. I've been admitted to the hospital for the past 2 weeks, and at the moment I owe the hospital so much money I don't know where I will get it from. When I returned to work 3 days ago, I went to see my boss to discuss the matter. I asked to have my salary in advance as I wanted to make a hospital deposit. She looked at me and said, "Maybe no one told you this, but you're paid on commission, and you've not worked for 2.5 weeks, and you expect me to pay you? You'll only be getting a quarter of your incentive." I was distressed, and the thought of going into debt to pay my rent and the hospital bill was killing me. I knelt down before her feet and begged her to pay me in full. A satisfied look came to her face. She decided that she would only pay half of my monthly salary. Even though it wasn't enough, it was way better than getting a quarter. Her mother walked in on us and found me on the floor. She was so disappointed in her daughter and gave her a lecture about life. She then wrote me a check for my full salary, and I left the office to give them privacy. An hour later, her mother came to look for me. "I am so sorry about my daughter's behavior. I had no idea that she would go on doing this to you. I regret not standing up for you on her birthday. What were you begging her for?" She said this to me with a soothing voice. I then explained what I was going through, and she felt sorry for me immediately. She then decided to pay the whole hospital bill. I couldn't thank her enough. I'm deeply indebted to her. I honestly didn't know how I was going to pay for everything. We've been in touch since then, and she is indeed a sweet person, and I cannot tell where her daughter got her traits from. Ever since Sofia got a lecture from her mother, she has been quite nice to me, even though you can tell that she's only doing it to convince everyone else that she's a sweet person. She called me into her office earlier today and told me not to get comfortable with her because I'm still the lowest paid person. She said that she's only treating me fairly because her mother threatened to report her to HR's office. She called me names because she believes that I turned her mother against her. I would never want to break up a family, as I know how it feels when your other half leaves you without a clue. She also warned me never to go anywhere near her mother or any of her family members. Theodor sneaks into the storage room to bring me tea, as I'm not even allowed to stop working for a cup of coffee. He's the only person at work who seems to like me, and I'm finding it hard to trust him. Not that I have a problem with people disliking me, but the treatment is unnecessary, and because of that my health is deteriorating. I once promised myself that I would not care about what people think about me, but this is just different, and it hits completely differently too. I spend most of my time at work, and I'm supposed to feel safe and not harassed. Update 4. It's been a month since my last update. Time flies, right? So what happened yesterday was that my boss fainted. How did it happen? It seemed that she has not been eating healthily for a few days as she has been busy with work. I arrived early at work yesterday because I wanted to finish work early. She arrived an hour later after everyone else and walked up to me. As I was mopping, she walked by without an apology, a few steps away from me, and her cup of coffee fell to the ground. I was annoyed, as I thought she was doing it on purpose, and I looked at her with an angry face. But I saw her arms swaying as she tried to reach for a table to balance herself. I hurried to her rescue to avoid her hitting her head. I looked around to try and ask for help from my co-workers, but they all looked at each other and started whispering to each other. I called out for someone to call an ambulance, but no one wanted to help me. They all looked relieved, as if they wanted her to die. I know she's arrogant and she hasn't been the best boss, especially to me, but that doesn't mean that I should sit back and watch her fight for her life. I carried her outside and took a taxi to the hospital. Theodor was right behind me and offered to pay for the ride we took to the hospital. As I carried her into the hospital, the nurses seemed to not care about her at all until a doctor recognized her and commanded them to take her in. Theodor had to go back to the office an hour later. I've been worried as the doctor only came out to tell me that she's suffered an anemia attack as she's not consumed anything solid. Plus, she hasn't taken her iron supplements in a long time. I haven't gone home since yesterday, and these nurses refused to tell me how she's doing. All they told me is that she was still unconscious. I called her mother this morning to tell her about her daughter's state. She's been sitting next to me with a devastated face. She also looked anxious when the doctor came out to tell us that Sofia needed a blood transfusion in order to save her. Her mother has already gone through some tests to see if it's possible for her to give her daughter blood, and they're not compatible. The doctor said that if we do not find someone else with O-positive blood who can save her, then we might lose her for good. I decided to undergo tests because my blood type is also O-positive to see if I can save her. We have yet to receive the test results to see if I'm healthy enough to give blood. I never knew that one could have subconscious love for someone that he was not even aware of. I truly care for this young lady, even though she's a pain. Maybe she's arrogant because that is her coping mechanism. You never actually know someone until you hear their side of the story, and I believe that she has a reason why she's the way she is. I hope I'm able to save her life. At least that is the least I can do after her mother paid for my hospital bill and how nice she has been to me as well. The results may take a few hours or even a day or two. I'm trying to be patient with the nurses here. They do not seem to be doing their jobs in the way they're supposed to. I'm overwhelmed by mixed emotions. I now do not know how I'm really feeling. Anyway, I have to get some coffee to stay awake. I'll update you all soon. Update 5. It's been a year since my last update, and I've not gotten time to update you sooner as I've been busy with work. You cannot believe what I'm about to tell you. It turns out that Sofia is my daughter, and her mother knew but never said a word to me. After the results came back, the doctor asked Lucy where the lady's father was, and she said that he was out of town with work. He asked if he was the biological father of her daughter. She started having shortness of breath and broke into a sweat, and she then pointed at me. I was so confused as to why she was pointing at me. "Alvin, I can explain." She said this to me with tears running down her cheeks. Sofia's mother was my friend. She was the most beautiful person I knew. She began to explain before I cut her off and asked the doctor to direct me to where I needed to donate blood. We left her and the transfusion was done. Hours later, Lucy came to me to explain why she kept quiet about my daughter. "Your wife lost a battle against anemia, and I wish I'd done more to save her, but I could not. She died 4 months after Sofia was born. She made me promise not to bring Sofia back to you until she was 35. I don't know why she made me promise. She had left me a picture of yours, and I was shocked to see you as a janitor at the place where my daughter works. I tried to tell you about it, but I didn't have the courage to. I'm truly sorry for this." As she explained, I kept thinking of how 27 years of my life with my daughter were taken away. I knew that she'd just decided to keep her away from me because she had a choice. I burned with fury, and she kept crying as she apologized. Half an hour of silence covered the room, and after that, the doctor came to break the silence by announcing that Sofia was finally awake. We both hurried to her room to see how she was doing. She was not happy to see my face, and as she wanted to chase me out, her mother told her who I really was. She did not know what the hell was happening. She thought it was just a dirty prank her mother was pulling on her. Sofia was discharged a day later, and she asked to go out of town to process everything she'd just learned. I made peace with Lucy, and we waited for Sofia to come back. Sofia then called me 2 weeks later and asked if I wanted to talk over coffee. I found her sitting alone at the diner, and she was filled with sadness and shame. She did not know where to start apologizing for the way she'd treated me. She also explained why she thought I'd stolen the pendant I gave her on her birthday. She has a similar pendant that her mother gave her when she was a child, so she thought I'd stolen the other half. How? I have no idea either. She apologized and promised to make it up to me. She was also wondering why I saved her life, even after all the pain she caused me. She thought that after the hell she put me through, I would watch her die without even minding it. I explained to her that my heart never wanted to let her go. Even though she was trying to be the worst person, I believed that there was some goodness deep down in her heart. I was curious to know why she acts all tough, and she responded that her parents look at her like she's a fragile egg because she has anemia, and so she has to find someone who looks worse than her to take her stress out on them. She said that her parents made it look like she could die at any moment, and she didn't understand why her mother explained that her friend's death planted trauma in her, and she was scared that Sofia could die any time, just like her mother. She offered to make me the assistant manager at work, and I agreed. I signed the contract and we finalized everything. And since then, my life has changed. I feel genuinely happy because I know I am no longer alone. Who would have ever guessed that a useless janitor like me could become an assistant manager in less than a year? I'm glad that I have my very own fairy tale to tell my grandchildren. I do not even remember when I was last this happy. So, what do we think of this one, guys? The OP's life definitely sounds like a roller coaster. I do wonder why his wife left in the beginning of the story. It would have been interesting to hear things from her perspective too. How do you feel about the daughter? She treated him really badly in the beginning, but once she found out who he was, she gave him a massive promotion. Do you think that's fair? And what about OP's wife's friend, Lucy? Do you think she did the right thing to keep her promise to her friend never to reveal to Sofia who her father was until she was 35 years old? It seems like such an odd request. It makes me wonder why she said that. If I was OP, I would also be angry at Lucy, but do understand why she would want to respect her friend's last wish. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for watching and see you next time.